My name's Elliot Keeley. I'm the director of operations at the Baltimore Jewelry Center. Um, I'm excited to introduce Jina Seo tonight, who's been with us for the past month as an artist in residence. Um, Gina, born in South Korea, is an artist and educator whose work explores the relationships between the body, clothing, sexuality, fetish, and space. Through jewelry and metalwork, she creates objects that invites viewers to reconsider how adornment shapes identity, intimacy, and the spaces that we inhabit. Gina is an associate professor of metal and jewelry at Missouri State University and has exhibited her work nationally and internationally, including Munich Jewelry Week, the Walker Art Center, Brooklyn Metalworks, Woman Made Gallery, and here, the Baltimore Jewelry Center. She currently serves on the board of directors at the Society of North American Goldsmiths and has taught workshops at Penland, Haystack, Aramont, and Pocosin Arts. Yay, Gina. Um, let's get started. I will share the screen and I'm gonna, there we go. Pass this over to you, Gina.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining my talk today. Uh, it has been great to spend a month in a beautiful studio here with beautiful, inspiring people. Um, Thank you, Elliot, Jay, uh, Margot's not here, Tabitha, all the people who's been like helping me to settle in. Um, Okay, I am going to talk about, oh, there you go. I'm going to talk about myself and things that I find fascinating, which sustained me to continue my journey as an artist for close to 20 years. That sounds crazy, but I've been like counting, but yes. Uh, During my grad school study, one of the mentors told me that pay attention to what I pay attention to. And that's something I still think about a lot. I was born and raised in South Korea. Growing up, I always find it compelling when things contain two or more qualities that are conflicting and making things complicated. I mean, I was a kid eating like kimchi every day, wearing hip hop clothing and listening to Sex Pistols and like, all the weird things jumbled together. And to understand myself and my surroundings, I started pay attention to the human body. One thing that everyone shares is the body, and it is our closest personal reference point, and we share it with every other human daily. And this is the first thing I made in my undergrad in the first year, freshman year, about the body. I was paying a lot of attention to the like inner organs and how things are working. Um, and I simplified and rearranged inner organ forms, combining geometric elements to convey the functional aspects of them, such as like circulation, flows. As I begin to understand organs a bit more, the binary aspect of inside and outside started to blur. It was intriguing to see the connections between each of the organs and how the internal and external space of organ was created. I wanted to further discuss the idea of space and its structure within the body. And this is called Klein bottle. It's a mathematical concept that was created by German mathematician. So if you start working through the form, you go through the inside and then you end up with outside. So there's no clear border of inside and outside. And that really, I started looking at it a lot. And these are some of the works that I created based on that idea. Garments. Um, the Give me 1 second. I am a big fan of fashion, and I'm a true believer in the power of clothing. Clothing has the ability to create significant connection between the body and social phenomena by not only providing physical protection, but also acting as an effective cultural signifier. Jewelry and garments share some overlapping area. That's where I started utilizing parts of garments to find my own answers to the idea of the body and its adornment. The fragments that were cut away from the ordinary clothing begin to attract the body in a very different way. Not just clothing, I genuinely am interested in fiber as a medium as well. Since the materials are quite new to me, I decided to do a material exploration, and I gathered a lot of different fiber materials and made many different samples. So these are one of my sample boards when I was exploring the fiber as a new element. I didn't have any like goals or directions. I just gather a whole bunch and start doing possible manipulation method like over and over. At some point, I was like dreaming, making samples, like to push myself. Um, so uh I started realizing not just fiber, I needed to include these like already created garments into my work. So I started making metal structures and then adding those fiber elements to it by stitching. I noticed that the ordinary garments become a little surreal, kind of awkward, and kind of uncanny. Besides the body, the idea of space has become an important topic to me. The interesting thing about space is that you can't really sense the space until you have some sort of indication to define it. Language often fails me. My thoughts sporadically develop and they just disappear, merge together. I do my best, but I always find myself as a little like awkward talker when I'm talking, especially about my work and stuff. So I try to draw a lot to really refine my thoughts. And these are some of the drawings that I did to talk about like space and overlappings and inside and outside. Here, I started using leather gloves as a main material in conjunction of metal structures. Little openings are always intriguing. The dissected spots on the fingers turn into small holes, passages, entrances, and portals. They deliver the invitation from the other side. It's a hole to the hidden stories, mysterious and vulnerable side, and it's a quite comforting process to face them. The leather, the outer skin, is turned into a part that of the in, turned into a part that's internal system. It twists our perspectives. When I think about my work, I always sense that there is like common theme going through all the topics that I'm interested in. And one day I kind of realized that it's the desire, like the idea of desire that's connecting all my thoughts and components that I'm interested in, like the body, the space, clothing, sensuality, like voyeurism, all those things. An American poet, Stanley Kunitz, once said, "Desire is what makes the engine go." Um, it is a substantial and necessary fuel for us. And I just kind of wanted to explore that idea a little bit more. The image on the top is a movie scene from a movie called The Handmaiden, 2016 by a Korean director, Chan-wook Park. This one scene perfectly sums up the reason why I was so attracted to the leather gloves, like beauty and guilt, power and pity, and brutality and delicacy all exist together. They're perfect ingredients that feed my curiosity of the complex human condition of desire. When I used a lot of leather gloves, I always sourced them as a secondhand uh, materials. And the used, worn, and damaged gloves are probably imbued with sweat and dirt, and they were always kind of like gross and creepy. And I like love that. So I wanted to share a little bit of that. This is a perfect, to me, like documentation of the vitality. People seek to give meaning and power to our surroundings through various activities, while the simple action of stacking small rocks into a pile is a way to pray in like hiking routes in Korea. So you see these like mounds of stones and you see them and realize that people's been praying for something. Uh, and then these mundane materials, including nails and mud, become something super powerful and magical in Congo, Africa. The extraordinary energy in these customs were generated because people actually believe in them. So these are some of the works that I created with that idea in mind, using leather and some other materials. And one day someone told me that my work seems like shamanistic. And I was like, whoa, that's like too much, too deep. Like I wasn't like expecting to hear something like that. And despite the formal qualities, maybe because I was really believing in the material and its power, what it could convey to others. Um, After grad school, I was at VCU for a year doing a Fountainhead Fellowship, and I created this body of work, Oddly Familiar, um, kind of pushing myself with the colors and forms and still uh, exploring the idea of the body. Um, like creating pile of rocks. I love when simple gestures like drilling a hole become something larger. As much as I love things that are chaotic, I also find the beauty in repetitiveness. You can see that those are all like drilled holes on the surface. And when I created the work, especially the one on the right, I realized that I was making somewhat of a Klein bottle. So I wasn't really intending that, but things that I've been interested in and things that I am interested in, it's all kind of like connected and fluid. That's what I uh, realized. So fast forward a couple years ago, I was invited to this exhibition um, that has a strict speculations, which was one, you must use enamel, and two, it must be colorful. And I was like, wait, I don't do enamel. My work is really not colorful at all. Like you saw some of like reds and here and there, but my work has been like super monochromatic. So I wanted to push myself and kind of like explore new directions. Some of you might recognize these works from the green body of work recently. So my work has been like changed drastically. This is one of the pieces I created for the exhibition. I found a new material that can add color, but tie back to my interest. Um, so the fabric that you see along with the enamel structure is called Italy towel. It's a shower cloth that's used in South Korea. It was invented like around 50s, early 60s, right after Korean War. And the reason why it was called Italy towel is because it sounds cool. Like it's from like Western, like Italy, and people still call it like Italy towel. And it's kind of like pocket shaped like that, and you put your hand in it and exfoliate your skin, dead skin. Um, this artificial lime green colored cloth is used in almost every household, and is a symbolic object to represent people's desire to be clean and ultimately the obsession to be beautiful. So when I was growing up, you go to this like public bathroom and your mom's like grabbing you and start like rubbing your back with it. It burns so bad. It's actually really like rough material. So you're like trying to wiggle out, but yes. So that's kind of like my memory of this material. When I say I create bodily forms, my inspirations are coming from the Klein bottle that I was mentioning earlier and Morbius strip, where there's no clear barrier of start of or like the end. Um, and then I started looking at the bone structure more. The human body is a type of vessel that contains a lot of blurry and fascinating shapes that I focused to explore that aspect in this body of work. Um, the shower cloth is made out of viscose. It's a semi-synthetic fiber created from the wood pulp, but has this like hideous artificial neon green color. Like this particular shower cloth is always this crazy green. I mean, recently people created like pink and blue and all these different types of colors, but this green is like really uh famous. And I find some correlation with the mowing culture in the US, especially where I live in the Midwest. This like it's a nature, but it's also super artificial. So I was kind of like pairing those ideas. These are some process images. I will talk about like my way of like creating piece from start to the end a little bit with photos. So I have like this inspiration images and then start doing some sketches, create copper structure. I use bending or soldering for enamel. If you're careful with the enameling, you can get away from with some of the soldering parts. So I was really pushing that idea. Um, Also, I make a lot of paper models because my forms are sort of like tricky. I have it in my head, but creating that like three-dimensionally, like sketching doesn't cut it because sketch is two-dimensional, right? So you have to kind of like translate it into three-dimensional paper model again, and use sheet metal to create the forms. So the top two images show my interpretation of Morbius strip. A lot of surface structures I made have a slight dome. It's kind of make the structure stronger in that way instead of just flat strip of metal. And below 4 images, you can kind of see me shaping, and the white material that you see is a clay. I just needed to have something that I can shape easily to decide what sort of a fiber material that I can add there. And then I'm doing enameling after. So this is the finished piece. Um, I am no longer using leather as a material, especially with this particular body of work, but people's been asking if these are made out of leather, which I thought that was pretty funny. I think the way I'm creating texture and adding the fiber material next to it can kind of provoke the idea of leather from it. These are my attempt to portray the body as a landscape. And then thinking about the bird eye view of a land. So the exhibition I told you that I was invited happened in South Korea along with 7 North American based artists. And this is the gallery view. And after 2 years 2 years later, 1 year, I can't remember. Sometime later, I was at BJC doing like second iteration of the Colorful Mind exhibition. So that's me and Sun Young Chung, who's my the curator of the show. Um, After that first body of work with enameling, I wanted to push myself with the enameling area more. So I started making this like somewhat bigger scale vessels. It's called Greener the Hatter. It's an open vessel form, so you can kind of hang it or just stand it on the table. So during the first week here at BJC, I created some of my production work to, get your hands loose and without too much of a pressure. I just always have little like smaller projects ready for residencies, so you don't have to like feel like stressed out, but making things as you're thinking in your head. Um, these are not on the view in the hallway, but you can see them on my bench today, if you want to check out. So here at BJC, I was working on another like new body of work that I started last year. I had an opportunity to do 2-month residency in Taiwan. And during that time, I was getting emails from my school attorney saying like, don't post anything about politics, like delete everything. Like I'm not gonna go into the details, but it is still, but it was very stressful as a international person, I guess, who's not citizen um, living in the US. And I was like traveling outside of the US, and they were like keep bombing me with the emails of like, you gotta be careful, don't talk about anything, blah, blah, blah. Like it was like really stressful time. And I started thinking about the idea of camouflage, like hiding, as a mechanism to hide or waiting. Um, so these are something called ghillie tarp, like ghillie suit, ghillie tarp. Um, and when you're searching for camouflage, it's not just the military thing. It is actually nature thing, like animals or plants, they hide with the mechanism of camouflage, not just to protect themselves, but also to attacked. So it's sort of this like two very different thing happening within the same umbrella. So I wanted to have that sort of a idea in my work using this type of new visual language. So I'm sharing some of the things that I created last year during my residency. A lot of like materials um, incorporated. Those are machine embroidery sheets. And I added some like this bullet-like shapes on top of it. And the level of enameling that I know or that I'm comfortable with is like applying the same color throughout this crazy looking form. But I wanted to push myself to create more like patterns or shapes, uh, depth, all that. So I created these like samples studies, um, and it started looking really like frogs and I placed them on the ground and they blended pretty well. Also using transparent enamel was kind of new to me. Some other samples and things that I created. Um, so I added different color material on the back to create this, to talk about this idea of like something's behind, something very different is behind. And that piece was one of the auction item at Ornamenta last year. And to talk about censorship or like hiding your voice sort of a thing, I added the element of megaphone. So created this vessel like tree-like forms. So I'm going to share some of the things I created. Fishing net is another element that I newly getting excited about. So I've been like creating this simple fishing net material. Um, Maybe like removing colors to talk about like there's like nothing. And adding two different megaphones together to create more complicated forms. Here at BJC, I've been thinking a lot about this like tent shape, like a little structure, man-made structure that you can hide inside. And I was telling you that I love these like holes. And you can see I'm like, oh, there's like little holes. Um, I have to like do something about it. So these are some of the samples that I made. I haven't been able to push myself with the structure fully to convey the idea of the holes yet, but it's gonna be my next journey. And then the ghillie suit, going back to the ghillie suit. I've never, even though I was interested in like the body and all, like this figurative shape hasn't been under my radar at all. Like I wasn't interested in those. But with this new idea, I am very intrigued by this like human shape, but you can't not tell what's going on really. So like the ghillie suit on top, chupacabra, right? Like this weird animal, human like things. And then the Bigfoot. So there is like this mysteriousness happening, unknownness, kind of like creepy, freaky sort of a idea that I'm exploring. These are very, very new. Um, I'm using Rhino to create these patterns, like the ghillie tarp patterns, and then I order the laser cut sheet mild steel to enamel on. So a big chunk of time here was figuring out how to enamel on steel. So that was really fun and stressful, but getting there. So this is kind of like what I have as a presentation files. I have actual work presented in the hallway if you want to look at it. My next things, I will have a solo exhibition here next year. So I'm gonna come back, which is very exciting, and you're going to see some of my more developed pieces from this body of work. So I'm very excited to share those. And then I will have a workshop at Penland next summer. So if you're interested in it, I will look into meeting you again. All right. Thank you.
Cool. All right, so next we will shift to the hallway. Jay's going to take us into the hallway and we'll do question and answers. So for those joining on Zoom, just bear with us for a moment and then we'll get everything set up. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Why don't you tell us? I just go. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Take it move for hours. How long can you do? I love the way back of itchy on the whole, like you like all the I went first really shaping myself with colors. The effects of like two different colors together, creating this like contrast or things like that. I mean, a lot of like metal people, like our language isn't necessarily like colorful. So I've been like really pushing that aspect. And this one, since you are here in person, I create them to work as almost like a little puzzle. So there's like a layer under another layer sort of idea. Because a lot of these forms, the vessel forms, there's like very contrasting color inside to convey the idea of like something different existing inside. But I want to push that even farther by creating another form. So still kind of figuring out exactly how to deliver that. Yeah. Little sketch, little drawing. And the humans, the heads, the creepy heads. That one, I wanted to explore some different material too. So I worked in like film material, maybe like having like another layer on top. There is a lot of components that I want to explore.
Any questions? Did you use the same rhino process for both of the gilly type of pieces?
Yeah, yes and no.
some of those are designed on Rhino, and then I print it out and hand cut instead of laser cutting. Some of them I started just hand drawing to begin with, and then the volume of work becomes larger. Like drawing by hand was too slow, so I started designing on Rhino and then printing out to make the process faster. But I think I'm always like more hand person where I need to sketch out on paper in order to even like do things on Rhino.
Okay, I have two questions.
Yes.
First one is, are there any like specific types of camouflage that you are working with? Is there like a reason? Because I know there's like a lot of different forms of camo.
Yes.
And then also the other one is like, you talked a lot about like being able to see through to like another part of the piece. Like, how does that relate to like camouflaging? And like, can I hear more about the role of like looking past like a surface at another surface?
Yes. Let's do one at a time.
It's like two big ones.
Yes. So the camouflage patterns, when you say patterns, it's directly related to the military development. So they created this like effect, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking a little farther from like the nature camouflage, right? There are like millions of it. I've been like, looking at books and like reading all the stories and all that. The beginning work, maybe like I don't have it here, but some of the green, like darker color, those are called frog patterns. I think like something about frog. I can't remember like the actual full name. It was developed in the U.S. and then imported to Korea. So in Korea, like the military service uniform is all that like that frog pattern. So I grew up with it. A little bit of Korean. If you're a man, you have to serve like 2 years. So like my brother wore it, my dad wore it. Like there's all this like familiarity that I had. So I kind of like naturally latched onto it. And then I think the pattern itself is slowly like dissolving and becoming more like this color dynamic rather than like this specific type of patterns to kind of like convey the character of this person, I guess. So that's sort of how I'm navigating with the camouflage aspect of it. And the other question.
It was about like seeing through like different surfaces to another surface.
Right.
And like I know you talked about like the holes a little bit in your top, but I'd love to hear more about like being able to like see to the other side of something.
Yes. So the vessels, they're coming from like the idea of like megaphone, right? So like talking, but your voice is invisible. That was sort of like idea. So I think sound doesn't have a form. So I wasn't really worried about like creating some sort of like elements for it. So I was just kind of playing with the colors inside and outside. These human forms, I think it's a lot more important to think about like what's under there. I am thinking of like adding another element in the back to really kind of push that idea of like seeing through this layer. So like kind of similar to those puzzles where I am looking for the material, the something to really get that idea across. Like these are shells and there's what's actually important existing. Is kind of like what's happening in my head.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
Is this, to me, this reminds me of the fabric sleeve piece? Was that on purpose? Like
The fabric
did
sleeve.
you mean to mirror those two? earlier on in your artistic journey, I forget what part, but it was 2 sleeves and then like a ribbon of fabric.
Oh, yes. Those were actually from sweaters, existing sweaters that I cut up and created this like a wearable interactive adornment. And when I look at clothings, they're all kind of like tube shapes, like it's a shell and your body goes through it, right? So again, like the repeating thing here is this like layer that I'm creating, and then something's like moving, existing, doing things under there that's seemingly more important. So I was kind of pushing that idea in a similar way, yes. Sort of visualizing what's under there, like this movement, or like sound, because sound doesn't have physical existence that you can see. So I was trying to express it in that way.
Do you plan to experiment with other types of colors besides enamel, like powder coating or like colored titanium?
Good question, and the question that I don't have answer for. So currently I'm really invested in enameling as a material. There's a lot of that I can explore more and more. But that doesn't mean that I'm not interested in other ways. Like you can see that I cut out like in a different form. I cannot enamel on that, right? So if it feels right, I'm really open to explore some other ways to add colors and patterns.
What's up with your drawing? Know more about your drawing.
So that one,
Beautiful. Well, thank you.
that was a sketch that I was kind of trying to understand, like the skilly suit idea. It was potentially turning into metal in a way. That like you can kind of see it's a hood and like arms, but at the same time, like it's a little confusing, especially when things are more like flat. So that like puzzling aspect of it, I really liked. It started like adding more colors, and the camouflage effect with it.
Okay, I have another question. On that, like kind of inspired by that, have you considered like doing other parts of the body? Because right now we have like this really descriptive like head and shoulders.
I don't know if I'm gonna do like parts of body, but in my head, I'm really drawn to different types of suits or like tents or like these fabric material, like the ghillie tarp, what people do with it, what can you do with it? So in a way, yes, I am interested in like different body parts because different objects are gonna interact with different body of parts, right? But my thought process is not going from the body, it's more like these objects created for the body to hide. So that is my answer.
That's the figure. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like in all of your work, there's this really strong reference to the like garment as a like, protective object or as like a barrier object or an enclosure. I think it's really fascinating that that's something that you are like maintaining in this work, even though there's like a distinct departure from your previous work, and that you're, at least as far as I am capable of noticing, not working with any found textile in your work. Can you tell us a little bit about that shift?
Yeah, I've been noticing that a lot more and more as I'm working on this body of work. I mean, it's kind of funny to say, like, I started it last year, like over the year, like, what did you do? Like, I just made this much progress. So to me, like, it's still really new. And this time around, I realized that, like, I am doing very similar, I'm utilizing very similar mechanisms in a way, like creating this shells. There's the interaction with like inside and outside, all those. But yes, I am not adding a lot of like fiber material along with the metal components. That's something in my head that I may want to do it, but the fabric, especially for this body of work, fabric itself or fiber or different material itself, when it has camouflage, it's kind of like, to me, it's crashing because I'm creating camouflage with enamel and with metal. So like finding the sweet spot of like adding those two, like that's been a little area that I'm trying to figure out.
A sort of a second question, if I may. I'm wondering how you think about like the tactile qualities that you talked about in some of the earlier textile pieces versus the sort of like characteristic stiffness that metal and especially enamel have.
That's a really good observation and comment. That's something I've been wondering myself too, because the ghillie suit itself it's a fabric, it's taut, it's very movable, it's very manipulative, like you can manipulate it easily, but the way I'm working, it's, yes, they're stiff, it's almost like a little like armor like. So finding like my reason for it or the effect, like the better effect that it's creating to convey my idea of like this like censorship or voyeurism, all that. It's still like in my head sorting.
Good place to be.
Yes, it is a good place to be and like nerve-wracking place to be.
And then Doris Chu Durfee is in the chat and she says, I love seeing your journey and variety of materials that have inspired you along the way. I imagine you are also a very curious child. What materials and projects did you enjoy working with when you were little?
Oh, that's little. What I always knew that I would do something with art, but I was thinking more like painting or graphic design or things like that. But I realized that I have to touch, I have to work with my hands like in three-dimensional way. So the fact that I stumble into metals area, that was almost like magic. As a child, I think I enjoyed almost any sort of art activity. I don't think I loved clay. Is there any clay people? No. Yes.
But that's a different Baltimore nonprofit.
Yes.
I might do a last call for questions, and if nobody else has any more, I have two final ones for you.
The pattern for the cutouts on the
Yes.
What was kind of behind your choice?
It was straight up from the research. So I gathered a lot of images or bought the gilly tarp. It was like their way to create this leafy shape in a most effective, like, because they want to create things fast in a factory, right? So they created this pattern so those cuts can be folded and like winkled to mimic the shape of leaves.
That's what it looks like. Thank you.
Can you tell me about like the installation of these in particular? Because they're like paired off.
So that wasn't really the goal.
Okay.
From the beginning. I just cut a bunch of heads, ordered the sheets, and then created like different colors, and some of them like failed miserably, and so I just like kept making to figure out the material almost in a way, because they were like steel and it was so new to me. And then I realized that I was doing this sort of like paired color skins. So like 2 green ones, 2 darker ones, and then 2 more like purpley pinky ones. So it kind of happened naturally. And because of there's such a figurative form, like the way you're putting really creates like stories, like narratives, that I didn't expect. So I am kind of like excited about that as well. Like these two, especially, like you can kind of have a little like direction, like overhead because of the placement of the oval cutout. So if they were like set, like put together the other way, like they're looking away, right? So those like little moments, I think more aware of them.
Mary Facella is in the chat, and she says, "Thanks for such a great talk. I wanted to ask you about how camouflage points to violence, specifically with the military or ghillie or gamekeeper suits for shooting or hunting. What do you make of that?"
So I've been living in the Midwest for 8 years so far, I think. Yes. It's a very like fishing and hunting heavy town. It's been fascinating just to see the culture itself. Not that I am like pro at it, not like or against do it. It's just this like action of killing animals can be viewed as like something leisurely or something for food. Like there's like a lot of different like connotations you can look at. I don't think I'm making a big connection with those as of now, because it kind of like came from more like a personal level of like experiencing a weird form of censorship. And my first reaction was like, oh, I need to like hide. But yeah, like I don't think I'm making clear connection or intend to make the clear connection of those type of like activities or cultures, but it certainly is existing and enjoyed by so many people, and I'm fascinated by that. Yes. Well, I want to add like this connotation of camouflage has like I was in Taiwan working on this body of work, and Taiwan is also a country with very sensitive like military actions with the neighboring country, and Korea as well. Like there's this like culturally embedded military presence because of that. So I was like experiencing that level of like social connection more. And then once I came back here, it's all like huntings and fishing, you know. So there's like a little different view on it, or like stronger view on it. And that's what I started to aware of.
Right. Mary says, thank you. And then I have, I think, two last questions. One, Gina, did you know that your work is going to be available in our metal shop very soon?
No. Now I'm aware.
Gina has done during her residency something that we are always very happy to see residents do, which is be really interested in like being part of our community and staying part of our community. And as part of that, her work is going to be available in person here at the studio and online in our metal shop, a standing retail space that we operate to support selling the work of artists in our community. Keep an eye out for that probably next week. And then final question.
Yes.
Gina, did you know that residencies like yours are supported entirely by donations?
I didn't know.
Uh,
Really great to know.
So right now we are in the middle of our summer fundraiser. We're aiming to make $70,000 total, about $35,000 of that we're hoping to be a dollar for dollar match for donations from our community by our board of directors. And every dollar you give is a dollar that makes residencies like Gina's possible. You can support that either on baltimoreJewelleryCenter.org/summer fundraiser, I believe. If it's not that, Elliot will put the correct link in the chat. And then there's always baltimoreJewelleryCenter.org/donate. That's baltimoreJewelleryCenter.org/donate. Thank you so much, Gina.
Thank you.